Welcome to Before the Blockchain, powered by Okcoin. I'm Natalie Brunell, host of the Coin Stories podcast, and I'm going to be interviewing Bitcoin voices about what they did before Bitcoin. And here with me is one of the best voices in Bitcoin, Robert Breedlove. How are you feeling?
I'm good, Natalie.
You know, starting at the beginning, you're from Tennessee, right?
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about your upbringing and maybe what might have predisposed you to appreciating Bitcoin.
Growing up in Tennessee, I guess we just had traditional values, and my mom had always sort of indoctrinated me into the value of education. So if there was ever a problem, you just needed to read about it, ask why, just dive into it and figure it out. So I started getting into economics in high school. I was reading The Economist magazine a lot.
Really?
And
That young?
well, this is like late high school, so
Okay.
16, 17. I actually continued reading it throughout my early 20s. Yeah, I went on to work. Basically, I was a career CFO and then ended up discovering Bitcoin, but then rediscovering it as like the answer to central banking. And that was my big light bulb moment. And that's when I started going all into the space. I was running a fund for a while, but then the educational stuff I was doing was getting popular. So then I jumped on this podcast bandwagon about a year and a half ago, and very fortunate to have Sailor as my first guest. And the rest is history. So what I do now is just try to educate people on Bitcoin, property, money, government, and all the history related to all those things.
Yeah, well, your show is called What is Money?
Yeah.
And when you went down sort of the fiat business world, did you think like, I want to be rich? Like, what was your concept of money back then?
Yeah, you know, when I was in the hedge fund business, I had this vision for myself of just being like a privately wealthy guy that lived a nondescript lifestyle, something like that. But now it's like whatever serves the purpose of broadening Bitcoin awareness, like I'm all for it. Just whatever you want me to be on a camera or do some more writing or talking, like I'm happy to do it.
So who was it that first introduced you to Bitcoin, or how did you hear about it? And what was maybe the aha moment?
It wasn't until, kind of interestingly, studying Ethereum in late 16, early 17, got to the concept of smart contracts, but then read Nick Szabo's work on smart contracts written in like 1997. That was my big light bulb moment. Because Szabo describes the smart contract as a vending machine, so it's automating commercial relationships between people. And then when you realize the whole finance industry is like a giant smart contract, but facilitated by human beings instead of software, that's when I thought this space was gonna be gigantic. So started allocating into crypto assets, started a fund that was originally multi-strategy, multi-asset, and just kept going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. Like the more I studied about Bitcoin, the more I came to see it as disruptive to gold, disruptive to central banking, and ultimately disruptive to global warfare.
Was that article that really started your trajectory to being a voice in the space, the one about the number 0?
You know, that's been my most successful piece to date, for sure. I had written some things before that, but that piece was written in an effort to answer the question, what makes Bitcoin different than all the other coins? And so I was just digging into history, looking for the example of an unstoppable idea. Like, what does that actually look like? And so when you study the history of zero, I think it's a pretty compelling analogy. You know, it's a numeric system that's more economically efficient. So it outcompeted all the other numeric systems in the world. And Bitcoin's sort of the same. It's just an idea, ultimately. And because it gives you so much more efficiency in terms of preserving your property, preserving wealth across time, moving it across space, you know, it just does all these things way better, and it's just an idea. So I think, yeah, I compared the two basically. Zero took over the world, we think Bitcoin takes over the world.
How has maybe your dream changed or not changed from wanting to be this independently wealthy guy, you know, doing your thing is that still what you want to be?
Now I want to write a book and help contribute to the Bitcoin movement as much as possible. You know, obviously making money while doing it, but my aim has shifted more towards the passion and philosophy and away from the fiat gains, I guess you might say.
But one thing I want to touch on back when, you know, before the blockchain, you mentioned traditional values and how you grew up with traditional values with your family. How do you see maybe fiat, you know, disrupting that? And how do you plan through your work to change that with Bitcoin?
I think a lot of people feel something's wrong in the world. And I think a lot, in my opinion, a lot of that's rooted in statism. You know, fiat overgrowth of statism is an attack on traditional values in many ways. You know, all the way to the bottom of Western civilization, like the state's an attack on life, liberty, property. It's supposed to be preserving these things, but it's attacking them in the modern day. So I hope that Bitcoin and the return to traditional values that it sort of incites helps counteract all of that. And I don't know, just gonna try to live it, breathe it, be it. Hopefully it helps.
So how would you, I guess, to wrap this up, define Robert Breedlove before Bitcoin and after Bitcoin?
Oh gosh. I guess if I could be super derogatory, I don't know if I can curse on this show. I was what some people might call like a fiat fuckboy before Bitcoin. Just, I don't know, I was chasing the dollar, basically, you know, drinking and carrying on. And then Bitcoin has shifted my focus towards trying to, what did Steve Jobs say? Nudge the universe in the right direction. So hopefully I'm more selfless. Hopefully I'm more grounded. Hopefully I'm more humble. Definitely more humble. Bitcoin will humble you. If it hasn't yet, it will in one way or another. And just hopefully becoming a better version of myself and encouraging others to do the same. So.
And now you're potentially returning to your roots, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
on the way back to Tennessee, it looks like, at least part of the year. So,
awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much.